I am just waiting for it to confirm.
I show it streaming live on my side here.
Yes, we are live.
Okay, good. We'll get started with this morning's meeting. First item on the agenda is A 2021-84. That's 210 Tartan Ave. Is Charlotte available? That's the applicant that's registered. There we go. All right.
A little late for that now, so it's okay.
See, she's down on the bottom. Before we get started, I just had a quick question in regards to the recommendation, and it says, or it appears that this is for a 45-unit multiple dwelling. The recommendation makes reference to 51-unit multiple dwelling. Should that be revised or amended to 45?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Brian. So we'll just note that. I assume that before this was amended, it was probably 51 to start with, and maybe it didn't get carried over properly through that last process. Okay. Anyone have any questions or comments? Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This looks fairly straightforward. We missed a side yard variance in the previous application, so this is amended. Again, I think this is a minor variance and there's no objections. There's nothing from any of the agencies. So I move that this be approved with the amendment to condition number 1.
Okay, second. Scott, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Next application's A 2021-92. That's 21-9 Pines Road. It's the applicant here. That would be Justine or Henry. And there we go. All right.
Hi there.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Fairly straightforward application. One suggestion that I might make is in the recommendation, instead of the building permit be obtained from, if we stroke be obtained from, and that a building permit application be submitted to the building division, it might be a little bit more appropriate. Then it will make it easier for staff to clear that condition in case the building department is backed up for whatever reason, which I know they have a backlog right now. So, okay, I'll turn it over. Is there any questions, comments, or a motion? Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a number of questions and a concern actually with this one because we're dealing with a 0 meter side yard. So if somebody could assist me, maybe the applicant, how do you expect to either construct and or maintain this deck without encroaching onto the neighboring property?
So it is my understanding that the neighbor has given consent to the homeowner to access their property to rebuild the deck.
Okay, just for the committee's benefit, later on, we actually have another 0 meter side yard where there's a registered maintenance easement on title. I would prefer that rather than consent, but I'll leave it up to the rest of you.
I can speak to that, Mr. Chair.
Sure, Brian.
Because it's a fence and really it's a raised walkway deck, the requirement for a maintenance easement is not stipulated in the zoning bylaw under this circumstance. That really is for things that are more permanent in nature, Scott. So like a side of a building or eaves that go over top of a dwelling. That's really the intent of that. Not so much for in this case.
That makes sense.
And just a follow-up question, Mr. Chairman, to the applicant. So you're simply replacing what's there with something new? Is that what I hear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Same size, same location.
Good. Jennifer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just following on that, up on that last question from Mr. Hanna, through you to Mr. Bateman. It sounds like this is a legal non-complying situation. Why is the variance required at all?
we were unable to exactly determine if this is legal non-conforming or not.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
I think we erred on the side of caution, decided to take it through and legalize it.
Thank you. It's
Good
helpful.
question.
Okay, anyone else? Scott?
Based on what I'm hearing, Mr. Chairman, I've changed my tune and I think I'm prepared to support subject to the changes that you made to the recommendation.
Okay, second. Jennifer, all in favor? Carried. Great. Thanks, Justine.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Next application is A202193. That's 1248 Ottawa Street South. Andre, is there staff, first off, is just a couple housekeeping things here, and then I'll hand it over again. Staff's recommending an amendment. I just want to make sure that the applicant's in agreement with the amendment. Yep, there we go. Andre, did you hear what I said?
Can you say that again, sir, please?
Yes, okay. Staff's recommending an amendment to the application, and I just want to ensure, or just your confirmation that you're in agreement with the amendment to the application.
I'm not totally familiar with the details of the amendment that is being recommended, sir.
Brian, do you want to maybe just recap the amendment form?
Actually, I don't even have the amendment to it myself, Denny. I'll be honest with you.
It says as amended. So when we look as amended and then we look under amendment.
Oh, I see. Yes. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
On the flip side.
Okay. I apologize on
That's
that.
all right.
So the amendment, so there are three recommendations that are before the committee today. And it is to allow the one pedestrian entrance. And because you can't provide a side entrance to this particular situation, Cheryl, who wrote the report, has made those amendments, A, B, and C. So that's pretty much it, Denny.
Right. So I guess the question is, are you in agreement with that, Andre? I think it's amendments for clarification.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm in agreement with that, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you. I just need your acknowledgement on that. Secondly, just another friendly amendment to the recommendation 3A building permit again. I just like to I suggest the word application behind permit. So it's just building permit application is submitted. Just to clarify that so it's clear what the intent is. And all that being said, any questions or comments or a motion? Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just a quick question in condition 3, item C. It says that the variance is noted to be completed by May 1st, 2023. That's 18 months from now. Isn't that a little bit longer than we normally go for on these kind of conditions? Like, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just wondering why it's 18 months.
I don't need 18 months, sir.
Then my suggestion would be May 1st, 2022, 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months, 12 months, I'd be agreeable to that. Whatever works for you, sir.
Well, I'm gonna.
Why don't you go 12 months, Bob?
Okay.
Just to err on the side of caution. Just with the way things are, things take a little bit longer nowadays to get done than they normally do. Yeah, Brian?
I was just going to say, I think just through experience, things are taking a lot longer. So these dates are arbitrary. We're just trying to make sure that they don't have to come back and ask for an extension.
Right.
That's all.
Right. Okay, Scott?
Just a quick question for the applicant. You don't own the other half of the semi, correct?
I don't, sir. No.
Okay. So just a question then for Brian. I think it's on page 3 of the report. Staff are supporting because there will only be 3 doors facing the street. Technically, the neighbor next door could do exactly the same thing, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and I wish there would have been elevation drawings with this application, because I personally think it's going to look a little silly, but depending upon what the rest of the committee thinks, I may end up supporting, but I would have liked to have seen elevations.
Brian?
Through the chair, Mr. Hanna, yeah, I mean, fair enough. That what we've done in similar instances is to require an inset door here to kind of, I guess, to mitigate the effects of the looks of 3 doors, and we'd be willing to do that in this case here. So if you're wanting to add that condition, staff would support that.
I guess it's back to you, Scott.
I'll wait to see if there's any other comments from the
Okay.
committee, Mr.
Jennifer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I take Mr. Hanna's point, and Mr. Bateman, that's a good suggestion. So essentially what you're suggesting is like a vestibule type thing. You enter one door and then there's a door to each apartment therein.
Yes, kind of that situation where you know the door, you wouldn't really see the door. It might be off to the side, but you know there's an entrance there. So it's not so visible from the street that there's 3 doors there.
Mr. Chair, to the applicant, would that be a problem for you?
So what you're suggesting is that, so the plan right now is to have a door and a window where the current garage door is. I'm not understanding the vestibule part, ma'am.
I don't think it would really work.
Yeah, it won't work.
Why not?
Because, sorry, I'll let the applicant answer.
I don't really understand the new idea, sir. So I'll let you go ahead.
I think it's when you look at this elevation, the garage floor elevation is dropped. It's kind of like a side split on the front plan, if I'm correct. And I don't know how you'd share a vestibule on the side split when you're on a different plane. It might be kind of difficult because I gather you're converting the garage, are you not? To the applicant, Andre, you're converting the garage, correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
Yeah. So I think that's probably why it would be difficult to do that. I don't know if do you see what I mean?
Am I understanding correctly, Mr. Bateman, that you're suggesting to take where the door would be, you actually turn it on a right angle to the front facade?
Correct.
So it would be hidden behind the window.
Correct. Are you looking at the picture of the house?
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, let me just... I was thinking more of where the garage is. Unless he can do it from that, where you come into the house and then turn left, I guess, and can go down into the garage.
Yeah, I'm able to go in from the front door, sir, just because of the main floor ceiling.
Yeah, see, that looks like a side split, if I'm correct, just from the front elevation, and that finished floor elevation wouldn't give the header room for a stairway down, I don't believe.
Yes, that's right.
I think what I was thinking here is rather than just punching a hole through the garage, because that doesn't look so great, you're going to have to rebuild that whole front portion because you're closing it in anyways, right, Andre, on that? So I think when you're looking at the space at the front where the garage is, you would do a little inset there. So, because that's where you're going to be accessing that unit from. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. You know, on the design of the house and the floor plans, I think the only access we're going to have to work with is the garage for the lower level. I don't think I'm going to be able to go through the front door and divide it up, go, up and down.
I think the issue that we're having is just so you don't have a second door that's immediately visible from the street. Is there a way to mitigate that? So that's where the idea of the inset or the front of the garage is. Either set back, or alternatively, if the door can swing to the side, so you're not visibly seeing it from the street. And I know, I'm pretty sure it's been done elsewhere in this manner. It's going to take a little bit of space away from the garage. I get it, but it is. I think it's something that can be done.
Scott?
I was just going to say, I'm looking at the floor plans for this proposed unit, and it's more than just the garage that's being converted. There's access to other areas of this house. It's going to be a nice size unit. I think all we're going to be doing is eliminating a little piece of the living room, which looks to be at least 10 by 20 anyway, which is a large space. So I personally would support what Brian is suggesting, that we do the inset door as another condition, but that's just my opinion.
The only issue is that the garage is there's no other spot for the kitchen, so we're going to have a little kitchenette in that garage section as well. It's a kitchenette and a living room, so it's not that big for both those spaces.
It's either that or maybe this needs to be readdressed and we defer it to the next meeting. I don't like deferring applications, but if it makes it easier for everyone to understand and a little bit more thought put into this, then that's an idea. Does that cause you a problem, Andre?
It's just the resources and the money. So this has been on standby for 3 months now already. So, I mean, any assistance would be appreciated.
It's tough. I can understand Scott's comment, and it's tough working off of hand sketched drawings when we normally would see, because these wouldn't be acceptable for a building permit in any event. So you're going to have to do it anyhow. And usually when it comes to us, we have the privilege of seeing those drawings to make it easier for us to understand exactly what's going on. So it's not that it would be a waste of time or a delay of such. It's just moving forward what you have to do in any event. If that makes any sense or not, I don't know. I'm throwing that out there.
All right. So, what are our options as of today, basically, if we were trying to move forward with this? What are my options?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, sorry if I'm seeming a little confused. I'm looking at page 3, the photograph of the front of the building, and then further on, there are 2 hand-drawn sketches of the floor plan, one being the current use, and then the other one being the proposed use. In the proposed use, as if I can understand it, that single door with stairs leading up to it is going to be removed. Is that correct?
No, sir. The single door that is the main entrance currently is going to stay there, and that's going to be access for the upper unit.
Okay. And you'll be replacing the garage door with a single outside door and a window.
Yes.
So, okay, I see the problem is that there will now be 1, 2, 3 front doors on this building, which is going to look a little funny. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I just wanted clarification on that.
No, well, Bob, that's where these plans are a little confusing, because I see why you're saying that, because on the proposed use floor plan, it says close off front door and fire rate. So that's why working from hand sketches like this is difficult, right? So I think what I'm hearing is it may be better off if we defer this to give you an opportunity to prepare better drawings and an elevation, and with the comments that you're hearing today in mind, and bring it back to the committee. Scott?
I was going to say, I kind of support where you're going, Mr. Chairman. I think staff are also concerned that they've asked for kind of a sidewalk to be put in front of this door so that the cars aren't ramming right up against it and blocking it. And I think an inset door would certainly solve that problem too. And if it came back with that kind of design, I think I would fully support it. So I'd really like to see it.
So I just have a question, sir.
Sure.
Are you saying that if we agree to an inset door, the committee would be agreeable to that today?
We're inclined to be agreeable. There's no definitive yes or no until we actually see what's presented in front of us. But it's not to say that we would not support that. That's what my colleague is saying. He would support it. And I know that I would, and I think probably, I can't speak for anyone else, but I would assume that they would as well. Bob?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. In looking at this again, I think it is a good idea, or close to a good idea. I'm in support of you, Mr. Chair, in not wanting to defer things continuously, but I think we need to defer this and get proper floor plans and solve the issue of the multiple doorways. I don't think it is terribly onerous to the applicant. I think we could probably defer this till next month, and the applicant can clean up the floor plans and the issue of the doors. I think it's fairly simple. A solution would be fairly simple. So I'm prepared to suggest we go for a deferral on this for 1 month.
Andre, hang on before we go, Scott, are you working with an architect now?
I'm not, sir. For this one, I'm not.
We might need more than a month.
I'm
Yeah.
with a month, sir. I'm okay with a month.
I don't know if you'll find anyone. That's to get it started and get it completed on time. That was my only concern. It's concern for you, not for ourselves. So if you're happy with a month, that's fine. That's pretty tight.
So I have two questions,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Are you saying definitively that a door on the front would be a no?
I'm not saying that, Scott.
I'm not saying that either, but I'm very concerned about precedent. There's no reason why the neighbor couldn't do the same. I think it's going to look a little silly. And that's why there's a regulation in place, actually.
Okay, so just to be clear, it seems that the only way around this would be for me to have an inset door.
That's what I'm hearing from the other members of the committee, is in terms of where their support is. Like I said, until we see final drawings or whatever, we can't give you a definitive answer, yes or no.
Okay.
But that's where everyone's leaning towards.
So I can work on that, sir. Either an inset door or try to make the front door work. You'd be agreeable to that if the front door doubles up as an entry for both.
I guess if it had maybe some support from staff that it would be aesthetically appealing for the streetscape, that's something that we would definitely look at. And that's what Mr. Hanna was saying, is that he's prepared to do. So, yeah, and then maybe it's just a matter of working with staff. So it comes down to the amount of time that you need. And I still believe that 30 days might be tight, but I'll leave that up to you.
I appreciate that, sir. I'll try to get it done in 30 days. My other choice is to just go in through the current front door and have a little common area over there where one door goes down.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
does the same thing. Which might work out better for you because you can park your car right up closer to the front of the building. Yes, Scott?
Yeah, if you did it that way, Mr. Chairman, you'd eliminate a variance for the door, and you'd just simply be dealing with a parking variance that we deal with all the time. So
Yeah.
So if you give me a month, sir, I'll sit down with I'll come up with another plan maybe, or come up with an inset door for you guys.
Sure. Okay, sounds good. Bob has a motion on the floor for 30-day deferral. Second, Scott, all in favor? Carried. Great. Thanks, Andre. Good luck. Next application is, hang on here, I grabbed two. Is A2194 50 Valley Brook Drive. Just have the applicant, which is Patrick. Is Patrick online?
Through to the chair. He
Yeah.
was online. He might just need a moment. I'm not
Okay.
sure where he's gone. My apologies. I will
Oh,
try to contact him.
Okay, so we'll defer this one, I guess. It's a straightforward application, but the applicant needs to be here for it. So, well, that's trying to be sorted out. We'll go to 1791 Glasgow Street. And that is application A202195. Is the applicant online? Jay, there you are, Jay. Staff's recommending approval without conditions. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or motion? Scott?
Just a question for the applicant. The picture I'm looking from the street, the garage that's just to the side of the house, that's the one we're dealing with because there's really no elevation attached to this application as well, correct?
That is the correct garage, yes.
Okay, so how much higher are we talking about? Are we putting a second story on that garage?
That's correct.
And you're using it for?
Just storage.
Okay, because Mr. Chairman, the page 3 of the staff comment says the height won't be visible from the street. Well, I argue that it will be. It would be nice if we would have had an elevation again.
Right. Brian?
Yeah, just on that note, through the chair, Mr. Hanna, there was a little clerical error on the report. Actually, it's the side view that's obstructed because there are a row of trees there. That's really what the author meant, not the front view, because you are correct. You can see it. You will see it.
Okay. Jennifer?
I agree with my friend, Mr. Hanna, Mr. Chair, that we really would have benefited from an elevation to show how the front facade of this is going to be articulated. Is there any glazing, fenestration, anything proposed in that second story that's going to make it sort of fit in with the adjacent house? When I look at it and imagine what it's going to look like at its final height, I think it's going to generally match the massing of the existing house. And I know these are big lots, but you know, I don't have a lot of reference to work with here. Can you give us a bit more information through you, Mr. Chair, to the applicant about what this is ultimately going to look like? Often in cases like this, it's nice to have an elevation so we can actually hold you to that design and have it as a condition of approval. So if you can give us some more information on what it's going to look like, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, it is matching the house. It's just 2 windows going directly above the garage doors. There is an elevation for it. I just wasn't aware that was part of the application to send those full set of drawings with. The full facade is going to match. It's all the same siding, large windows above the door just to keep everything clean.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I don't know. I suppose we can take the applicant's word for it. I know we have city staff's support. So I suppose I'm satisfied with that. Thank you.
Ryan?
We could add that as a condition that we review those elevation drawings to I know the committee won't be able to see them per se, but staff can just ensure that they are satisfactory, if that's okay.
Mr. Chair, that would be fine for me. Thank you.
Anyone else? Or a motion, Jennifer?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. I move that the application be approved. Sorry, I lost my. Papers all over the place. Okay. Application be approved subject to one condition requiring that the applicant submit drawings to be reviewed to the city's satisfaction, to staff satisfaction.
Okay, second. Bob, all in favor? Carried. Great. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. I think I saw Patrick wandering around here. Am I correct?
He was here.
Through the
Yeah.
chair, yes, he is in the meeting.
We might as well finish him off if you can get him back here. Or did he go MIA on us again?
No, he's here as an attendee. I'm
Okay.
just trying to promote
Get
him
over.
to a panelist.
Okay,
Here he is.
Patrick. Okay, so this is regarding application A 2021-94, which is 50 Valley Brook Drive. Patrick is here in attendance again. And staff's recommending approval without conditions. Any questions, comments? Motion, Bob.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a very straightforward one,
Mhm.
very minor. There's no agencies involved, there's no complaints, and there's no conditions. So I move that this be approved as per the staff report.
Okay, second. Jennifer, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Patrick. Okay, next application is A 2196, 61 Warren Road. Okay, Tony Bauer is the applicant. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or a motion? Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This one has correctly put the condition in about submitting the building permit, so we're one step closer. I like the application. I think it's a good idea. We've seen these a lot. In this case, though, that the applicant is proposing to widen the driveway in order to provide the parking spaces side by side. And I would have hoped that staff would have recommended a condition that the widening take place to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning prior to the issuance of a permit. So we don't do that. We could issue the permit and the driveway stays the same. So I like I said, I like this application, but I would prefer a second condition.
Brian?
Through the chair, yeah, we didn't ask for it because I mean, they need the second space anyways to make this work. However, I'm hearing what Mr. Hanna is saying, and we would certainly support that.
Okay,
Hi, committee. Are you able to hear me?
yes.
Hi. Thanks for your time. And sorry, I didn't get my video up there right away. I'm just kind of learning as I go here. Yeah. So in regards to the driveway widening, yeah, as Mr. Bateman had just mentioned, yeah, we're going to need, like, regardless of this variance application, we were intending to widen the driveway anyways. It's my understanding that we won't necessarily need to cut the curb in this case. We're only, 1 or 2 feet short of the requirement, like the legislative requirement to have 2 parking spots side by side. Normally it would have conformed originally by using the parking space in the garage. But however, because we're converting the basement into a second unit, I'm understanding that there's a requirement for the walkway out of the basement, because coming out of the basement, it goes directly into the garage. And to meet legal requirements, it has to be wide enough for the walkway and for a parking space. So it's like a foot short or something like that. Like that's my understanding. So the alternative solution that our engineer had, worked with, that we've been in communication with the building department, and as far as I know, all applicable departments that would need to sign off on this, and we're looking for just a foot or two on either side. Like there's room on both sides to extend it, and like I said, we want to do this anyways. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Hanna.
I'll
Scott?
take direction through the chair.
Oh, sorry.
We'll wait to be directed.
Fair enough. Sorry.
You'll have to move the stairs, correct? Like you're going to eliminate the sidewalk and the stairs?
Certainly we can. I'm open to any suggestions. We have no preference whether it's to the left or to the right. I know the picture that's in the documentation here on the agenda, you can't really see too well how much space is on the side, but it's several feet towards the fence on the right hand side. But it's certainly, if it's agreeable for the committee, we can happily remove the stairs on the left hand side as an alternative to meet the width requirements for side-by-side parking.
When were you anticipating widening the driveway? And there's method to my madness. I'm just trying to help you out.
Appreciate
you may
it.
not be able to do it this fall. Again, it might be next spring, correct?
Well, our intent is to do it as soon as possible. I don't see why it would take until next spring. Is there a reason
Okay.
that you think?
No, I'm just saying, well, what I suggested initially was prior to the issuance of a building permit. And if you wanted to get started right away, I guess, Mr. Chairman, we could change that to say within 1 year of the date of the decision to fulfill the driveway condition as an alternative. And I'll shut up now.
Sure. Okay. Anyone else? Is that, you want to do a motion then, Scott?
Yeah, and I'm going to soften it a little bit. I like this application. We've seen that a lot, the duplexing, and it's in keeping with the provincial legislation for, affordable housing. So I'm going to support the application subject to two conditions, the one listed by staff and a second one saying that the driveway be widened to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning within 1 year of the date of the decision.
Okay. Jennifer, is that a second? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, gentlemen and lady.
Next application is A 2021-97. And that's 17 to 19 Peters Street. Okay, before we carry on with this one, I just have a question for staff. It says in the recommendation, it says that the owner shall submit and receive approval of the site plan application. I was just looking at the timing issue on the approval. You think there'll be enough time for that, Brian, or? I'm just thinking of you being able to clear conditions.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think it can, because they haven't submitted it yet. They've done conceptual at this point in time, and I think they're just trying to get direction from the committee on whether or not we'd support it before they submit their application. And as I understand, they're ready to submit it very shortly.
Okay.
Perhaps the applicant can clarify that.
David, are you ready to submit?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Yes, we are ready to submit. And we've had pre-consultation with staff, which was very helpful. In fact, what we're going to submit represents the feedback we received from staff. So that's why we wanted to get the variance going. So I'd say we're beyond the pre-consult because we have received the feedback, and this was the next step to get all of the final drawings completed.
Okay, like I said, my concern was just to make sure that it didn't lapse on anyone and that it could probably properly be cleared by staff without any aggravation. So seems like it's, from what I'm hearing, that's fine, and this would suffice. With that in mind, does anyone have any questions, comments, or Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It should be noted that there was an objection to this application that came in via email. I'm not saying I support his objection, but I think just for the record, that should be noted. I think, I guess the question I have is the parking that is being suggested in this application. It meets the new zoning bylaw, right? I guess that's through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Bateman.
My understanding, yes, it is.
Okay.
We're moving to that rate. And
yeah, I guess my question for the applicant, Mr. Aston, would be, strange question, how tall is this building going to be?
Through Mr. Chair, because of the zoning, the building height is regulated at the 10.5 meters. So it'll be kind of how you see the typical stacked townhouses around in the area. So it'll max out at the 10.5 meters.
Okay.
And I guess the point is that it will fit the new zoning bylaws that will be coming into effect. Okay. Sorry, Bob. Are you done?
Yeah, okay, that answers all my questions, Mr. Chair. Noting that the one of the neighbors does have an objection to this. Having said that, I think this is a good idea. So I'm prepared to.
Scott had a question.
Scott.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share my colleagues' comments about the letter of concern. Most of the concerns I don't have any issues with whatsoever. I do, however, note that staff in transportation had supported this application based on 15% visitor parking. But I only see on the preliminary site plan 10 parking spaces, which would be the one per unit. Can somebody clarify what's going to happen with visitor parking?
Mr. Chair, yeah, it would be inclusive of that requirement. So, Steve, I don't know if you worked on the pre-submission or not for this application, but so the actual rate would be what, 0.85 plus the 15% or whatever that works out to be to get it to one overall. So be inclusive of the visitor parking.
Through the chair, that's correct. I did not work on the pre-submission, pre-consultation process, but I did have a chat with my colleague who did. And that's correct. I believe it's the 0.85 for residents and then the 0.15 for visitors. And then added to that, there is, the location is fairly close to some higher order transit with the GRT and the LRT, as well as there is sufficient on-street parking for visitors in the within walking distance.
Okay, Scott.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. So should we, because I support the application, should we provide some wording that indicates that, provide one parking space per unit inclusive of visitors? I don't know. I'm just asking that of staff.
I don't know. Yeah, David.
Through Mr. Chair, I would actually appreciate that clarification as well. Because I think that is the intent, that it's a total of one space per unit. And whether it needs to be in the motion or not, that's I guess up to the committee. But I think what Mr. Ryder has indicated is that it's one per unit total overall.
I don't see any harm in doing that. I think that's a good idea, Scott. So does anyone else have any questions or comments? Otherwise, I guess we're looking to a motion. No, Scott?
Yeah, I'll certainly move the motion, Mr. Chairman. Again, I think this is a really good infill application, and it's fully supported by our new zoning bylaw. And I would suggest that we just add to the resolution to provide one parking space per unit inclusive of visitors rather than the 1.25.
All right, second. Bob, all in favor? Carried. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next application is A 2021-98. That's 16 to 20 Queen Street. It says south, it's actually Queen Street North. And I have to declare a conflict. I have an interest in this property along with the applicant. So I will have to abstain from this.
Okay, then in that case, I guess we put Denny in the waiting room or however staff does that, and I'll take over as an interim chair. Okay, is the applicant here? That would be someone from GSP?
Yes.
Okay, Kevin. Okay, good. Obviously, you've read the staff report, and do you have any questions or concerns about this?
No, not at all. I agree with the staff report. I agree with the recommendations. These are variances that are, first two variances are largely just to recognize the existing building, the facades, which will be preserved as part of the new development. The last two are essentially just to bring forward the zoning provisions of the new bylaw regarding parking.
Okay. I do believe there are two people who have registered on this, not so much as objectors, but more to ask questions. Do I see them both here? I'm a little lost.
Through to the chair. Yes, Bob, they're both in attendance and I am just promoting them now.
Okay. When I see them. I don't see anybody showing up here. Am I missing something?
No, it appears they are having some technical difficulties. I'll try to allow them to talk from this end. Mr.
Okay,
Leo.
I see Leo is there.
Yeah, are you able to unmute yourself?
Here he goes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Leo.
Yeah, I just want to stay here and see the argument from both sides, so I don't have any objection or support to this case. I just want to stay as an attendee to understand the case. That's it.
Okay, just an observer then.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Is there another registrant? Okay, I think Tiffany Chen. Yes.
Yes, same thing as Leo.
Oh, okay. So you just want to see what the outcome is on this.
Yes.
Okay. Then I'll just jump right in, and I'm going to say I think this is a great idea, preserving the facade of a nice old building. And from the sketches that I see submitted with the application, I think they've done a reasonably good job on incorporating the nice old building into something that will fit the new downtown. So having said that, is there any questions, comments from the committee? Scott.
I just had a number for staff, just for clarification. I'm reading into this that conditions 1 and 2 relate to the desire to maintain the facade and the heritage designation.
Through the chair, Andrew Pennell, the author of the report, is here today, and Andrew can answer those questions.
Andrew.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So that you're asking about the two conditions, Mr. Hanna?
No,
so,
the two like the first two variances, I think, are related to the desire to keep the front facade, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, perfect, because that's the beautiful idea. Condition 3, I'm assuming that the rate we're looking for would be consistent with the new zoning bylaw. That's the way I'm reading it.
You're correct.
Okay, and I think condition 4 kind of relates to kind of a bonusing thing that you're trying to do with the applicant. They're providing this space on the basis of what they're achieving.
So recommendation 4 does relate to bonusing under the Planning Act. Bonusing is on its way out of the Planning Act, but it's currently in effect. And yes, the Community Amenity Center amenity space relates directly to the bonusing provisions of the zoning bylaw.
Okay. And just as an aside comment, I know that support for the new rate is based on the city providing lots of parking downtown, and I'm assuming you're monitoring that closely.
I can confirm that the Transportation Services Division is monitoring that, and perhaps they can speak to that further if you wish.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, this looks like a real onerous application and whatnot, but it is really fully supportive of what the city's trying to achieve in its vision. So when the time comes, I will be supporting.
Okay, any further comments from the committee? Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Pennell. I just wanted to confirm the condition regarding the parking spaces, indoor bicycle parking spaces. I think it's a great condition, but I'm just wondering, is that something we have routinely done, is register that requirement on title?
For the chair, we have done this in the past. I'm not sure for how many, but certainly a variance that I've worked on, we have done this.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was my only question. Like my colleagues, I think this is a fantastic design, a great project, and I'm prepared to support it with the conditions proposed at the appropriate time.
Okay, I have one further comment. The requirement for the bicycle parking seems on the surface to be quite significant, but when you factor in that there is going to be no parking other than on adjacent parking lots, that's 1 bicycle per unit and 8 for attendance at the amenity space, whatever that amenity space will be used for, whether it's a music event or a cooking show. So even though it does seem a lot to have for a registered bicycling storage, I'm in support of this. So Jennifer, you have comment or motion?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I just want to be clear. So under the new zoning bylaw, we know that no parking is required in these downtown high density residential. Is it expected that the new zoning bylaw will require bicycle parking at the rate proposed for this? Will that be a bylaw requirement, or is that just sort of being put on developments in the interim?
Good question.
It is a good question. Through you, Mr. Chair. So there will be minimum bike parking requirements for both secured long-term as well as short-term bike parking. The rate proposed here is double what is currently in the zoning bylaw, or what will be in the zoning bylaw. So this has been looked at based on the applicant's desire to provide the parking and what staff deemed reasonable.
Thank you. That's helpful. Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to move that the application be approved if that's the next step in your agenda.
Is there a seconder for that? Mike? Okay, all in favor? Application approved. Thank you. Staff, you can go and get Denny now. Oh, there's Denny.
Right.
Denny's back. Okay. Let's carry on, Mr. Chair.
Okay. We are at application A 2021-99. That's 111 Gay Crescent. And for the record, we had received a letter of concern from a neighbor. So just want to make that noted. Anyone have any questions or comments? Scott.
Chairman, thank you very much. Unlike the earlier one about an accessory building, we do have elevations or part of now. We don't really know where this thing is being proposed to be located, and so we really can't assess impact on neighbors. And we do have a letter of concern from a neighbor. I wonder how we're going to solve this, because I'd really like to know where this the structure is going to go.
Jeff, can you help us with this? It's the applicant.
Yes. It's going in the back corner of the property. It'll meet the setback requirements. I submitted with the information I submitted, there should be a drawing showing where it's being located on the property.
Didn't show up in our package, Mr.
I don't
Chairman.
have that,
apologize.
no. No.
Okay, it was submitted with my package to them because they were clear they wanted to see that. So it's basically going in the back corner of the property. But it's following all the proper setbacks, and the reason for the variance is actually because if I build a traditional gable styled roof as my neighbor, the reason for the variance is strictly for the height, because our neighbor built a similar shed, which used a gable roof, which he maxed out the height of, which I thought was a little high. So I'm actually proposing to build a shed that's just basically got a what do you call it, a slant roof, where it's short on one side and taller on the other side, and the short side is what is going to be facing the neighbors. The tall side will be facing the house, because it gives you an overall lower profile to any neighbors around me, as opposed to the gable roof, which will be a much taller roof. So I was actually trying to keep the height down.
Scott?
Yeah, I can see that now, Mr. Chairman. The dimensions of the shed?
Should be in the drawing. It's approximately, sorry, I'm at work here, so I don't have my drawings with me, but it's approximately 26 feet wide by 21 feet deep.
Wow. What's it intended to be used for?
It's going to be storage and hobbies. Unfortunately, my garage is, we've got a car parked in there, a classic car parked in there. And I have a picnic, or through the pandemic, we've got a ping pong table in our backyard, which is died in the weather. And it's going to give us storage so I can actually paint some furniture and have some things to do. And if I'm going to bother to spend the money to build something, I just thought I would make sure I've got sufficient storage, because we have no room in our single car garage.
Question for staff, Mr. Chairman, if I may, that 20 by whatever, it's like 400 square feet, is that going to abide by the coverage requirements? It seems
Through the
rather
chair.
large.
Through the chair, yes.
Okay.
It's based on the size of the property. And
Okay, anyone else?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I continue to have concerns with being asked to approve something where we have very little information on what it's going to look like in terms of the facade, the exact location on the property. It's very hard to assess these applications without that information. I don't like the precedence that's being set without these drawings. So I'm not sure if this is, again, a situation where we should be deferring it to have a proper diagram before us and facade. I heard from the applicant that it will be angled, the roof will be angled away from adjacent properties, which I think is great. That helps mitigate any concerns. But I want a proper drawing that I can recommend that we impose a condition against, so that we ensure that it is in fact built that way. But I don't have anything to use for that purpose. So I'll leave it to you, Mr. Chair, and my colleagues, but those are my concerns at this point.
Jeff?
I did submit sketches because I was advised not to apply for a building permit till we had the variance done, but I did provide sketches with the drawings to show you a front view, and the back view is very plain. Actually, when I spoke with one of our neighbors, she was happy that there's no windows on the back of it, no windows on the side of it, because the neighbor beside that had built a similar size shed, put windows high up, and it looks down into their yard. So we're trying to be very respectful and be low impact to any of the neighbors. But I did submit drawings of the shed, line drawings, plus a approximate visualization of what it's going to look like at the front, where the variance is actually being requested for, because that's the height that the issue was with. So I'd rather not delay if possible, just because I don't understand why you don't have that information that we submitted with the application.
I can appreciate that comment, Jeff. And maybe in order, given the circumstances, Jennifer, on this one, that we take that into consideration, and obviously something must have happened to them internally within the city. So maybe we can just condition it again, just with elevation satisfactory to city planning staff. Brian first, and Bob. You had your hand up, Brian?
Well, yes, I've just been talking to Eric Schneider on the side here as well, just to get some feedback on that. Apparently the drawings were cut. I'm not sure what he means by that, but he's available to answer questions regarding the elevations if need be. Do you want me to get him on the call here? Just to help
Sure.
clarify?
Sure, there he is. Hi, Eric.
Yes, through the chair, the planning staff were accepting of the elevations that were shown because the lower side is projected towards the neighbor. And the applicant made it very clear that they would be meeting the setback requirements, the 0.6 meters that's required for any side or rear yard setback. And so planning staff didn't have any concerns with the location within the property. They knew it was going to meet the side yard setbacks. We made sure with the applicant that they weren't requesting a variance to make the shed any closer to the side yards or rear yards as is currently permitted in the zoning bylaw. So again, in terms of the location, the fascia that is the lowest part of the fascia is actually under 3 meters, and that will be the part facing the neighbor. And again, if they wanted to build that shed without this additional fascia height, they could do that now as of right. So staff didn't think that there was any reason to talk about the side yard setbacks, because we know they will be met, and that the height at the side yard setback is what's currently permitted as of right.
Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I hear what our colleague, Ms. Meter, is saying, and I agree. It would be a whole lot clearer, to me anyway, that if there were proper elevation supplied with this, but we don't have it. And I don't think we need to delay this. There's so many delays going on in the world. And there's really not much in the way of objections. There's no agencies. There's no other variances. The only thing that's of concern is the height of the shed. And they had, in my report, there is a rudimentary collection of drawings showing what the applicant is attempting to do. So I'm going to move that this be approved with the one condition, and probably a note to staff that if they can come up with elevation drawings for future applications, it would make it easier on this end. So I'm moving that this be approved with the one condition.
Okay, Scott, you had something?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share my colleague Jennifer's concerns. I think, and this is just a note for staff, that in future, if site plan and elevation drawings are submitted, we need to see them all. I'm hoping that my colleague Bob will agree to a friendly amendment. I really think we should put something in here that says that the proposed increased height be internal to the property, or something to that effect, to the satisfaction of the director of planning. So if a second condition could be worded similar to that, I would certainly support.
Bob?
Mr. Chair, I think that's a great addition. So yeah, a friendly amendment, and I guess we just have to consider the wording of what that would be. Scott, did you have any?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the increased height be located internal to the property to the satisfaction of the director of planning.
Jennifer?
And I would maybe just add to that, and that the height of the structure at the side yard setback, is it going to be directionally the easterly side yard setback? Which setback is it? The easterly side yard setback meet the bylaw requirements?
Should not exceed the bylaw requirements.
Should not exceed the bylaw requirements.
Correct.
I just want to make sure we have the directional side correct on that. And I don't know, because I don't have a site plan to know which way it's angling.
Right. And then that follows the intent of Jeff's application in any event. Don't see a problem. Jeff?
I've lost video on my end, but hopefully you saw me raising my hand there.
Yes, you did, yeah.
Okay, so the the intent has always been to have the lowest side facing the neighbors.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that's the easterly side. My only question is the comment about the height being interior, because the design of the
When they say interior, he means lot front facing. So it's not facing out to the outside lot line, it's facing into the interior of your lot.
Yes. Yeah, that was the intent, was always to have that the
Yeah,
tall
exactly.
part
Yeah.
facing us. Okay, super. Yep, no problem.
Okay, good. So that's the motion on the floor. Second? Scott, and it's been amended twice, correct? Just for clarification. Second, Scott, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Jeff. Good luck.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Next application is A 2021-100. It's 932 Eagle Crest Court. Okay. Amanda, is she here?
I'm here.
There we go. Okay, great. Staff's recommending approval with a condition. Does anyone have any questions, comments? Scott?
The actual application clauses B and C are exactly the same, and I think one of them should refer to garage width and one of them should refer to driveway width. I would ask if I'm correct for staff, and if we do, we should make the change.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I agree with Mr. Hanna on that.
Okay.
So the maximum width, I think, should be 6.5.
Yep, good catch. Good catch, Scott. All right. Anyone else? Recommendation's been amended. Motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that the application be approved as amended, subject to the one condition.
Okay, second. Mike, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Amanda.
Great, thanks.
Next application is A 2021, 20 Pearson Street and 160 Bullock Street. Heather is the applicant. Staff's recommending approval without conditions. Does anyone have any questions or comments or a motion? Bob?
Yeah, I'll jump in, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
If I understand this correctly, this is just a setback for the stairs on a fire exit. Yeah, okay. I see Ms. Price is nodding her head. The rest of it is fairly straightforward. So I'm going to move that this be approved as submitted.
All right, second. Jennifer, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Next application is A 2021, and it's 695 Block Line Road. Valerie is the applicant, Valerie Smith. Is she here? Richard. Okay, Richard. Gotcha.
Hi, I'm here.
All right, good. My page followed over, so. Staff's recommending approval with just one condition. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Or a motion? Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Again, nothing major, just an increase from 5 to 8, an additional 3 stories. Staff seems to be in support of that. There are no other agencies with concerns. There's no objections, and there's one condition. So I move that this be approved with the one condition as in the staff report.
Okay, second. Jennifer, all in favor? Mike, carried. Thank you. Thank you. Next application is A21-103 and A2021-104. That's 331 and 341 Hesh Crescent.
Through the
Chris-
chair,
yeah.
Mr. Pigeon is not on the call at this time. I will follow up with him if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
Going to the next.
We'll go to the next one. Good. All right, then the next application is severance application, and that is B 2021-43, and it's 303 Park Street.
Unmute, start video. There we go. Good morning.
There we go. Staff's recommending approval
Beauty.
with conditions, standard conditions, and I believe they picked up the regional condition as well. Anyone have any questions or comments? Bob?
Yes, Mr. Chair. It's not really a question for the committee. It's just I don't think I've ever seen this before, that the owner, I see that one tree is going to have to be removed, and it's a city-owned tree, and the city is assessing a value of $1,000 for that tree. Have we, sorry if I'm a little confused, have we seen that kind of condition before, and the amount of $1,000 per tree?
I never have in my 20 years doing this, so.
That's my question. I don't have any concerns with that. I'm just wondering where that that dollar amount came from. So maybe through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Bateman, or to Mr. Ryder, who came up with the value of $1,000 for a tree?
Brian?
Chair, it's our parks staff that would do that. So they use the arborist standards for trees to come up with a value and assess it accordingly. We just through the chair, we have had this condition before, but not with the dollar amount shown. You know, usually, you know, it's something to the satisfaction of parks, and then it's dealt with on the side as to what that amount would be. So
I guess that's the throw off. Bob, you found out what it amounts to.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair. That was, it's nice to know. And I'm guessing we're probably going to see more of this in the future. I think it's a very comprehensive report, that all the conditions that I can think of have been covered off quite nicely. The region conditions have been covered. There's nothing from the from the GRCA. So
hang on one sec, Bob. I know you were heading with this, but Scott has his hand up for a question or something. So
sorry, Mr. Chair.
I just had a follow-up to staff, to Brian or Mr. Bateman, on that similar comment about the compensation. I'm wondering why this wouldn't have been picked up earlier in the process through the permit application. Because when I'm thinking, if this would have remained a rental semi, that there would have been nothing done about it. I mean, quite frankly, this is just, we're trying to, this is under construction. I drove by it. Its permit's been issued, and we're just trying to create owner-occupied sides of the semi here. Can you answer that question? Why wasn't it picked up during the permit process?
through the chair, I honestly don't know. I mean, obviously, when a building permit comes in, we probably should be checking for these instances where, you know, where access points are being proposed, and if a tree is to be removed, somebody should be following up with park staff. There's no one from building here to speak to that, but I'm hoping that is the case.
Okay, I fully support. I fully support the condition because I think that, you know, maintaining our street tree canopy is really important, but it just seemed to be something that should have been picked up earlier. So, Bob, you can continue.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hanna. I agree with your comments that it should have been picked up earlier. I also agree with your comment that we're all of us here on the committee are in agreement on trying to preserve the tree canopy. So I will move ahead, and I think that this is fairly comprehensive, missed a bit, but I move that this be approved with the, how many? 11 conditions as per the staff report.
Second. Jennifer, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, have we located Chris Pigeon?
Through the chair, yes, he is on the call.
All right. Okay, good morning. Chris, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Mr. Chairman.
There we go. All right. This is application A 2021-103 and A 2021-104. Staff's recommending approval with one condition, which is a straightforward condition. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Scott?
Mr. Chairman, I think this is a really good use of a use variance because there's one use that really doesn't, I think, meet the definitions within the zoning bylaw. I think that we're also dealing with two variances because technically, I guess there are two properties there now which may end up being merged. And so when the time comes, I'm fully supportive.
All right. Anyone else? Or I'll take that as a motion. Bob, did you have something?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I agree with Mr. Hanna. I don't think we've ever seen a usage described for this particular usage. I guess it's not a common use for properties like this. I agree. I think this is great. I think that if Scott made that motion, I'll second it.
All right. All in favor? Carried. Thank
Thank
you.
you, committee.
Thanks,
That's
Britt. Move to adjourn.